You think your days are busy and interconnected? Imagine traveling in a world where connection means dust on your sandals, a line of camels on the horizon, and the distant glow of fires in a caravanserai. No internet, no flights, just a slow, living ribbon of people and goods moving between oceans and empires. People imagine the Silk Road as a single long road packed with treasure and danger. But most of the time, it wasn't like that. It was a network of quiet paths and dusty tracks linking tiny villages, oasis towns, mountain passes, and great cities. Most travelers weren't famous explorers or royal envoys. They were merchants, guides, translators, monks, craftsmen, and their families moving at the pace of a walking camel, one peaceful day at a time. Tonight, we're not following an emperor's embassy or a dramatic caravan under attack. We're following you, just one ordinary traveler among many, on a calm day along the ancient Silk Road. Before we saddle up and head out, if these slow journeys help you relax and drift off, I'd really appreciate a like or a subscribe. It helps more sleepy minds find these stories. And I'm always curious, where are you listening from and what time is it there right now? Drop a comment when you wake up again. It still amazes me that people all over the world fall asleep to the same quiet stories. All right, make yourself comfortable. Adjust your pillows. Pull your blanket around your shoulders. Let your breath slow just a little, because tonight we're joining a caravan under a wide Central Asian sky. Congratulations, you wake before you mean to, not because of an alarm or a blinking screen or a sharp sound, just because the night has begun to thin and the world around you is gently, steadily deciding to be morning again. You are on the Silk Road, not the clean line on a map, but the real one. The one that is dust and stone and small concerns, meals and wages and weather, one day after another. You lie still for a moment on your pallet, letting your mind remember where your body already is. Rough wool under your cheek, the faint, dry tickle of straw shifting inside the thin mattress as you breathe, the faint smell of smoke in the fabric of your blanket, the smell of last night's fire, soaked into everything. You open your eyes, and darkness is no longer complete. High on the wall, opposite your pallet, a small window, just a slit really, leaks a narrow band of gray-blue light into the room. It draws a soft line across the packed earth floor, across your rolled cloak, across the bundle that holds almost everything you own. Someone else lies on another pallet against the far wall, wrapped like a cocoon in cloak and blanket. Their breathing is deep and slow, not quite snoring, not quite silent. For a while, you simply listen. The caravanserai is waking up, but softly, as if it also understands that minds and bodies are slower than doors and animals. From beyond your wall, down in the stables, you hear the low, bubbling complaint of a camel disturbed from its rest. Another answers from further away, the sound traveling through wood and stone with a deep, sleepy vibration. Hooves shift, ropes creak. A wooden bucket touches stone somewhere with a hollow clack. A man coughs, then coughs again, clearing his throat after hours of sleep. Somewhere in a nearby room, a whispered phrase of prayer rises and falls, too soft to distinguish the words, clear enough to carry the shape of devotion. You let your lungs follow the rhythm of these sounds. In and out, in and out. No rush. The journey will not start without you. There is a whole caravan to move. You are only one traveler among many. Eventually, you let your blanket slip down to your waist and sit up, Cool air touches the skin of your neck and arms, and you feel every place where dust and sweat dried last night. Your back aches a little, a familiar, dull ache from days of walking and riding. Your legs feel heavy and used, but not damaged. Your feet remember every step, especially on the hard, stony stretches, but they are still willing to carry you. You stretch your arms in front of you and slowly roll your shoulders. Joints answer with small, soft clicks. Not pain, just a reminder that you are not new anymore. In the corner of the room, near the low doorway, a clay jar holds water drawn last night from the caravanserai's well. Next to it sits a shallow basin. You stand and walk over. Feeling the floor's coolness through the soles of your feet, you touch the jar with your fingertips. The clay is cool and faintly damp from the night air. You tilt it carefully, and clear water slips out in a smooth, small stream, tapping softly into the basin. You lean over and scoop water into your hands. You splash your face, forehead, eyelids, cheeks, chin. The shock of cold is brief. Then it becomes wakefulness. You rinse your mouth, spit into the basin, feeling dust and dryness leave with the water. You pour another small handful over the back of your neck, letting it run down between your shoulder blades under your tunic. From a tiny wooden box, you take a finger's smear of sesame oil and rub it between your palms. You run your hands through your hair and beard, smoothing dust away, giving unruly strands a bit of weight again. No soap, no perfumed water, just simple oil and simple water, the way most travelers clean themselves here, enough to rinse off the road without wasting what everyone needs to drink. You dress without thinking much about it, the order as familiar as breathing. Under tunic first, the linen softer than when it was new, worn by washing and sweat and time. From a tiny wooden box, you take a finger's smear of sesame oil and rub it between your palms. You run your hands through your hair and beard, smoothing dust away, giving unruly strands a bit of weight again. No soap, no perfumed water, just simple oil and simple water, the way most travelers clean themselves here, enough to rinse off the road without wasting what everyone needs to drink. You dress without thinking much about it, the order as familiar as breathing. Under tunic first, the linen softer than when it was new, worn by washing and sweat and time. Then the outer tunic, thicker, dyed a modest, practical color, something that will not show dust too quickly, something that is not so bright it draws unwanted eyes. Browns and dull reds and faded blues are common along this road. Your trousers are loose, tied at the waist with a narrow cord, tucked into your boots so they don't flap against your legs when you ride. Your boots are leather, the color of dust and miles. The soles bear the marks of many different kinds of ground: fine sand, sharp stones, dried mud, city cobbles. You turn them upside down and tap them gently to knock out any small pebbles or thorns that might have found their way inside overnight. Around your waist, you wrap a wide, woven belt. Into its folds you tuck your small knife in its simple sheath, your small purse of coins, a scrap of rough paper with a few scribbled notes, and a little leather pouch that holds salt and a pinch of ground cumin. Over everything, you pull on your outer cloak a long, woolen garment that has each day's dust written into its folds like the thin lines in the palm of an old hand. It will keep the morning chill away now, and later it will protect you from the sun and wind. Near your bedding, you kneel and roll your blanket tight, binding it with a cord you can loop over your shoulder. You check your pack: spare tunic, needle and thread, a small bag of lentils, a bit of dried meat left over from a last purchase, polished beads you hope to trade farther west, a small, folded strip of parchment with a letter you can't read yourself but know is important to someone else at the end of this road. You lift the pack. Its weight settles on you in a way that is almost comforting now. There is nothing here that does not walk with you. You duck under the low doorway into the corridor. The corridor is narrow, its walls close, worn smooth by the passage of many hands and shoulders over many years. The air here is thicker, a slow blend of human warmth, smoke from last night's lamps, and the persistent, slightly sour smell of people who live in close quarters. You walk toward the courtyard. As you draw nearer, morning sounds gather like water flowing into a shallow pool. Men and women speaking in low voices, snatches of different tongues brushing past your ears, the rolling syllables of Persian, the clipped, measured sounds of Sogdian, a burst of Turkic laughter, a few careful words of Chinese exchanged between two merchants in hope of better profit, a simple greeting in Arabic near the gate. No one language dominates. The road speaks in layers. You step through the last doorway, out into the open. Above you, the sky is widening from gray to pale blue, like a curtain slowly being pulled back. The stars have faded, but if you squint, you can still imagine where they were a short while ago. The air is cool, not sharp, just enough to make you feel the difference between inside and outside on your skin. The courtyard around you is a simple rectangle, rooms opening into it on all four sides. In the middle, a covered well stands, its stone rim already touched by the first light. Beside it, a boy hauls up a bucket of water, his small hands wrapped tight around the rope. The wood of the bucket thuds softly against the well's side as it rises. On one side of the courtyard, camels kneel in a line, their long necks folded, their bodies like soft, rounded hills. Their thick, shaggy fur is matted and tangled in places, but underneath it, the animals are strong, made for long, patient journeys. They wear their gear like a second skin. Padded cloths under wooden saddles, thick ropes wrapped around sturdy frames, straps and cords holding everything together. Some of the loads are already tied on, wrapped bales of silk that drink the light even through their outer coverings, sacks of grain that bulge with steady, earthy weight, bundles of wool, faintly smelling of lanolin and sheep, ropes of dried onions and garlic braided together, small chests bound with iron strips, rolls of fine paper from the east, coated carefully to take ink, packages of dried tea leaves or cakes of compressed tea, little glazed jars cushioned in straw, each one holding oil or spices or perfumes that travel much, much farther than the person who bottled them. Donkeys stand nearby, smaller and stockier, ears flicking at every sound, tails swishing lazily. A few sturdy horses are here as well, the mounts of guards and wealthier merchants, their manes combed, their saddles better padded, their bridles decorated with small bits of metal that catch the dawn's light. You move toward the side of the courtyard, where a low fire glows. The fire smells of dried dung and a little brushwood, sharp at the edge of your nose, but this is the normal smell of cooking fuel here, the smell of warmth and food and habit. Over the fire, a blackened iron pot hangs, its sides stained from countless meals. Inside, water comes close to boiling around handfuls of tea leaves and bits of dry herb. The surface shifts in small, lazy circles. Beside it, a metal plate rests above the embers, and on it, pieces of flatbread warm, puffing slightly, the edges browning just a little. The bread isn't new. It was baked yesterday or the day before, but heat revives it, softens its stiffness, brings back the smell of flour and smoke. You sit on a low stool or on an upturned basket, whatever is free. A woman with her hair wrapped in a striped cloth passes you a piece of bread, pressing it into your hand with a small smile that needs no shared language. You tear off a portion and dip it into a shallow wooden bowl of yogurt, thick, slightly sour, wool fat rich. The bread soaks up the coolness of the yogurt, and when you bite, the taste is simple and complete. A few pieces of dried apricots sit in another small bowl, their surfaces slightly tacky, their color a muted, dusty orange. You take one and chew, feeling it soften in your mouth, the concentrated sweetness spreading slowly. Someone ladles tea into a cup and hands it to you. The tea is dark and bitter, but there is a hint of something else in it. Dried mint, perhaps, or wild thyme gathered in some mountain valley. There is no sugar, not here, not now. If there is anything sweet, it is honey, carried carefully because it sticks and spills and draws insects, but you don't need it. Heat and a little bitterness are enough. Around the fire, people eat without hurry. Caravan workers, porters, animal minders, guards sit shoulder to shoulder with wealthier merchants. For this brief time, everyone does the same thing. Tear bread, dip it, chew, drink, breathe. You've learned the rough order of money along this road, the invisible ladder that people climb or descend. A simple worker, hired to walk and carry and lift, might earn a few copper coins each day, enough to buy bread, onions, maybe a little lentil stew if they are careful. They sleep in the common rooms, eat in the cheapest stalls when in the city, patch their clothes rather than replace them. A camel handler, who knows how to load and soothe and look for signs of illness, earns a little more. His coins can stretch to an occasional piece of meat or a small cup of wine in town. A guard with a good bow or a strong sword, someone who can be trusted to stay awake on the night watch, earns more still. A mixture of coins and sometimes a share in the profits, a tiny slice of the wealth moving along the road. Merchants, especially those who own their goods rather than just carrying someone else's, live in another world of numbers. They think in handfuls of silver coins, in strings of pearls, in the weight of bolts of cloth, and the difference between what they pay in one city and what they can earn in another. You are somewhere between these layers, not poor enough to own nothing, not rich enough to send others in your place. You hold your cup in both hands and drink slowly, letting the warmth seep into your fingers. Around you, the languages continue to weave. At your left, a pair of Sogdian traders talk quietly about rates and routes, their speech full of soft consonants and rolling vowels, peppered with names of cities, Merv, Bukhara, Kashgar, Chang'an. At your right, a man from the western lands jokingly complains, in a rough dialect of Greek, that this bread is not like the bread at home, but he eats it anyway, tearing big, contented bites. The boy from the well comes by with a second bucket, careful not to spill, careful because spilled water is lost money and lost comfort. His tunic is patched at the elbows, his bare feet are dusty, and his eyes are bright with the endless curiosity of someone growing up in a place where the world passes through. He speaks a little of many tongues, enough to ask where people come from, enough to understand when they hold up a coin and ask how much for more bread, more tea, a place to sleep. You finish eating. The bread sits solidly in your stomach. The tea has cleared the last layers of sleep from your mind, but it has done so gently, without any sharpness. You stand and walk toward your camel. She turns her head slowly and looks at you with calm, dark eyes, half shaded by thick lashes. Her breath smells of dry straw and distant grasses. You run your hand down her neck, feeling the coarseness of her fur, the warmth of her skin. Around her body, The wooden saddle frame rests on thick pads of felt and cloth. You check the ropes on your side, making sure each knot is still tight, each loop still snug. A shifted bundle can unbalance an animal, and an unbalanced animal can stumble in a narrow pass and turn into a day's worth of trouble. You adjust one strap by a finger's width, retie a cord around your personal goods, your pack, your blanket roll, a small bundle of trade items wrapped tightly in oiled cloth. You take a step. Your heel strikes the ground. You roll forward to the ball of your foot. You push off. The dust rises. You take another step. The landscape does not seem to change. To your left, there is a ridge of sedimentary rock, striped in layers of red and ochre. It looks like a layer cake turned on its side. It has been there for millions of years. It will be there for millions more. To your right, the flat plain stretches out to a shimmering horizon where the heat haze makes the mountains look like they are floating on water. The sun is a white disk in a pale sky. It moves so slowly you cannot see it move, yet every time you look up, the shadows have shifted slightly. Your own shadow is a dark puddle by your feet. As the hours pass, the puddle lengthens. It stretches out, becoming a thin, dark giant walking beside you. You reach for the water skin hanging at your belt. It is made of goat bladder, cured and sealed with pine pitch. You uncork it. The water is warm. It tastes of the leather and the pitch. You take a small sip. You do not gulp. You hold the water in your mouth, letting it wet your tongue and your gums. Then you swallow. You feel the liquid slide down your throat. It is the most valuable thing in the world. You cork the skin. You keep walking. The rhythm of the caravan is set by the wooden bell on the led camel. It is a hollowed-out piece of wood with a wooden clapper. It does not ring like metal. It clacks. Clack, clack, clack. It is a dry, heartbeat sound. It measures out the seconds of your life. Clack, clack, clack. You watch the feet of the camel in front of you. The pads are broad and flat, designed to spread the weight over the sand. When the camel lifts its foot, the sand falls away in a small cascade. You watch the sand grains fall. You watch them land. You watch your own boot step over them. The ground is changing again. Here, there are small tufts of scrub grass. They are dry, gray-green, and thorny. They hold onto the earth with deep, desperate roots. You see a beetle, black and shiny as obsidian, struggling over a pebble. You step over it. You think about the destination, but it is too far away to matter. You are heading for an oasis town. It might be Kashgar, it might be Turpan, it might be Kucha. It doesn't matter. They are all the same. They are walls of mud brick. They are the shade of poplar trees. They are water that runs in canals. They are the smell of roasting meat. But that is days away. Today, there is only the walking. You adjust the strap of your pack. It digs into your shoulder. You shift the weight. The pack contains your life, a spare tunic, a small felt mat, a bag of dried millet, a flint and steel for fire. It is everything you need. The wind picks up. It hisses through the dry grass. Hiss! It rattles the thorns. You lower your head. You look at the ground. You count your steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The numbers mean nothing. They just fill the silence. The light begins to change. The harsh white glare of midday softens. It turns yellow, then it turns gold. The golden hour in the desert is a time of incredible clarity. Every rock casts a long, sharp shadow. The texture of the ground stands out in high relief. You can see every pebble, every crack in the dry earth. The colors deepen. The red rocks turn the color of dried blood. The sand turns the color of apricots. The sky deepens into a rich, infinite blue. The temperature drops. You feel it on your cheeks. The baking heat lifts away, replaced by a sudden, creeping chill. You pull your cloak tighter. You wrap the wool across your chest. Ahead, you see the shape. It is geometric, square, straight lines in a world of curves. It is the caravanserai. It stands alone in the wilderness. The walls are 20 feet high, made of rammed earth and straw. They are thick at the bottom and taper at the top. They are the same color as the desert. The caravan slows. The bell slows. Clack, clack, clack. You approach the gates. They are made of heavy timber, reinforced with iron bands that have rusted to the color of cinnamon. They are open. You walk through the shadow of the archway. The sound of the wind cuts off instantly. You are inside. The courtyard is large and open to the sky. In the center is a well with a low stone wall. Around the perimeter are the stalls for the animals and the rooms for the men. The air here smells of safety. It smells of old hay, of donkey dung, of charcoal, and of damp earth near the well. You stop. You stop walking. The sensation is strange. Your legs still want to move. You feel a phantom motion, as if the ground is still scrolling beneath you. You pat the neck of the camel. You untie the ropes. Your fingers are stiff. You work the knots loose. The heavy bales slide down to the ground with a dull thud. The camel groans a long, complaining, vibrating sound. It bends its front knees, then its back knees, and collapses onto the ground. It begins to chew its cud immediately. You walk to the well. You lower a bucket. The rope is rough in your hands. You hear the splash far below. You pull it up. The water is cold. You pour it into the trough for the animals. Then you pour a ladle for yourself. You splash it on your face. It washes away the dust. The mud runs down your beard. You feel clean. You feel human. Now, the food. You gather near the fire pit. There are other travelers here. A monk in saffron robes who sits quietly. A merchant with a blue turban. You do not speak much. You are too tired. The cook is making the staple meal of the road. He has a large iron cauldron sitting on a tripod over a fire of dried dung and tamarisk wood. The fire burns hot and fast. Into the pot goes the water. Then the millet, small yellow grains that swell as they cook. Then the meat. It is mutton, salted and air-dried until it is hard as wood. It has traveled 1,000 miles in a sack. Now, in the hot water, it softens. It gives up its salt to the soup. The cook adds chunks of fat from the sheep's tail. This is the energy you need. He adds a handful of dried onions and a pinch of cumin. You sit on the ground. You take your wooden bowl. The cook ladles the thick stew into it. It is gray and yellow. It steams in the cold night air. You take a piece of naan bread. It is hard, like a stone. You break it with your hands. Crack. You drop the pieces into the stew. You wait. You watch the bread absorb the broth. It swells up, becoming soft. You eat. The taste is salty, fatty, and warm. It tastes of cumin and smoke. It fills your stomach like a heavy stone. You feel the heat spreading through your chest. You feel your eyelids getting heavy. The light is gone now. The only light comes from the glowing embers of the fires. The faces of the men are illuminated from below, deep shadows in their eyes, orange highlights on their cheekbones. A man nearby is counting his money. He stacks the copper coins. Click, click, click. Another man is mending his sandal. He pushes an awl through the leather. Grunt, push, pull. A camel snorts in the darkness. The wind whistles over the top of the walls, but it cannot reach you here. The caravan's leader walks slowly along the line. He is not dressed in dazzling colors. His tunic is faded, his cloak dusty, his headcloth a simple, practical shade. What sets him apart is not his clothing, but his manner. Patient, steady, alert, he glances at each animal, each load, each traveler. He counts, almost without seeming to count. He knows what belongs, what does not, what looks right, what feels wrong. He has walked this road many times. The road has also walked through him. When he reaches you, he gives a small nod, not of greeting, but of quiet approval, everything in place, everything ready. The large gate at the end of the courtyard creaks as its heavy bar is lifted. Outside, the land is waiting in its usual unhurried silence. Inside, hooves and feet begin to shift toward the opening. You lead your camel in step with the others, one more small part of a moving line that stretches from east to west. You pass under the gate. Behind you, the walls of the caravanserai begin to shrink. Ahead of you, the world opens. The sky has brightened to a paler blue. A thin band of gold lies along the horizon in the east, where the sun will soon rise fully. The air is still cool enough that your breath comes in faint, visible puffs, then disappears. You step onto the road, not a paved, dressed road, but a path worn by repetition. Here, the ground is packed hard by many feet. There, it is looser, a mix of small stones and sand. The caravan settles into its day's pace. Camels sway with each step, their long legs moving in a rolling rhythm that is slow but patient and tireless. Donkeys plod, smaller but no less steady. Horses move with a more energetic gait, but are held back by their riders, kept to a speed that matches the group. You walk, your feet finding the pace that matches the camel at your side. Step, 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 in and out. The land around you is wide and mostly empty. To one side lies a low stretch of desert, not the high dunes of distant stories, but a flat expanse of sand and gravel dotted with tough little shrubs whose leaves cling close to their stems. Small stones catch the light here and there. To the other side, far off, the land rises gradually, hints of hills building toward mountains that you will not reach today. Their distant slopes are blurred by a fine haze. Sometimes the road passes near a dry watercourse, its bed cracked, its banks crumbly. Once or twice each day you might see a small canal leading away toward a cluster of trees, marking the presence of a hidden village or farmstead, but the caravan will not detour there unless it must. The sky slowly loses the fragile colors of dawn and becomes clearer, plainer, as the sun climbs. Its warmth falls gently on your shoulders at first, then more firmly, pressing heat into cloth and skin. A breeze rises, sliding in from the open land. It carries dust with it, but not much yet. It carries scents, dry earth, the faint tang of animal sweat, the ghost of yesterday's fire lingering in your cloak. As the hours pass, the day settles into its middle. The sun stands higher. Shadows grow shorter. The breeze continues, but now it is warmer, carrying the smell of heated stone. The caravan moves on, steady, unchanged. Sometimes you hear a small clink as metal touches metal, a buckle against a ring, a cooking pot's handle gently tapping a saddle. Sometimes a camel lets out a complaining groan, answered by another farther back. Sometimes a man or woman, tired of the quiet, sings under their breath. a low, repetitive song, more chant than melody, a way of measuring the steps. The talk of breakfast has melted away into a silence that is not heavy, just practical. People save their breath for walking, for coping with the growing heat. After some time, the leader raises his hand and signals with a small shout. The caravan gradually slows and then angles off the more worn path toward a slight indentation in the land, a shallow depression where a few short trees grow. Here, someone long ago dug a small well. It is not deep enough to be obvious from far away, but those who know the road know this place. The water is bitter and slightly salty, but it is drinkable. Around the well, shaded by the thin branches, the ground holds a little more moisture than the land beyond. Sparse grass grows in small clumps. The air feels thicker, cooler here. The animals are led into this room of shade in the open. Loads are not fully untied, but straps are loosened so chests and sacks and bales can shift comfortably. Camels fold their legs and sink to the ground, raising small puffs of dust, groaning as they settle. You shrug off your pack and cloak and spread the cloak on the ground. You sit, then stretch your legs out in front of you, feeling the relief of not having to hold your own weight for a moment. Someone passes around a water skin. You take a careful mouthful, swish it around, swallow slowly. The water is not cold, but it is wet, and wet is all your body wants right now. You pull out a piece of yesterday's bread from your pack. The edge is harder now, the center still edible. From another small pouch, you take a pinch of salt and sprinkle it onto the bread. A few grains sparkle briefly before melting against the dry surface. You chew slowly, the bread softening in your mouth. You follow it with a small bite of dried mutton, a strip of meat dark and tough from curing in salt and air. The taste is strong, salty, and faintly smoky, its fat content long gone, leaving only protein and memory. For those with more coin, there might be more variety. Nuts, almonds and walnuts, and pistachios. Dried figs with seeds that crunch softly between the teeth. Small squares of pressed fruit and nut paste. Sometimes, when the season is right and the route passes near cultivated ground, fresh fruit appears. An apple, its skin slightly bruised from the journey. A few grapes, their skins dusty. A pear, softening near one side. But fresh fruit is a luxury on the open road, not the rule. You eat what you have, and it is enough. Nearby, two men discuss wages in low voices, not in anger, but in the perpetual small bargaining that underlies any working day. One complains that last month, on a different caravan, he earned 4 copper coins for each day of walking and watching, and here he receives only 3. The other points out that this caravan's leader is more careful, that there has been more water, less risk of bandits, more steady work. 3 coins here, he suggests, might be worth more than 4 under a more careless hand. They nod, make small, non-committal sounds, neither satisfied nor furious. They both know that tomorrow they will still be here, still be walking, because the road offers enough to keep them and not enough to not return. You lean back and let your shoulders rest against the rolled bulk of your pack. Above you, the leaves of the stunted trees tremble slightly in the breeze, casting a net of fragmented shadow across your face. Somewhere nearby, a man lies flat on his back, one arm thrown over his eyes, not quite asleep, not fully awake, hovering in that middle space that is as restful as a short nap. A woman sits cross-legged with her embroidery, brightly dyed thread passing in and out of a patch of cloth. Her fingers move automatically while her gaze is turned inward. A guard, his sword laid within easy reach beside him, tears bits of bread to feed to a small, hopeful dog that has appeared from nowhere, ribs faintly visible beneath its short fur. The dog eats each piece quickly, then lies down in the shade, simply glad to be there. The hours of noon pass slowly. Heat reaches its peak, then hovers. Finally, the leader calls to move again. 1. By. 1. People rise. Lips dry. Limbs lazy but functional. Straps are tightened. Ropes are secured. Camels are coaxed back onto their feet. The road's second half begins. The afternoon is quiet. The sun no longer climbs. It begins to move sideways, and shadows lengthen very gradually behind you. Your body has accepted that today is a walking day, that tomorrow will be another, and that this is not a crisis, just a fact. Muscles that once complained now move steadily, no longer expecting to be released early. Your mind, lulled by repetition, drifts between memories and gentle observation. You notice the way dust settles on your boots, forming a thin gray film that cracks in small patterns when you flex your toes. You notice the way sunlight shines through the edge of your cloak when you hold it up, turning thick wool into a translucent, warm brown. You notice small details in the people around you, the way one man's hat has been mended with thread of a slightly lighter color, the way a woman wears 2 different earrings, each likely from a different trade, the way a boy walking at the back counts quietly on his fingers, perhaps practicing numbers in a language that is not his first. You think back to other days on the road. You remember traveling in early spring, when snow still clung to the higher slopes and the rivers were swollen with meltwater. Then, the air was colder, and you walked with your cloak wrapped tight, breath steaming as you exhaled. Meals then were heavier, richer, thick stews of barley and mutton fat, onions simmered until they dissolved, bowls of hot porridge made from millet or cracked wheat. You remember crossing higher ground in early winter, when the wind coming down from the mountains cut through cloth and wool like a knife. Then, waking meant putting on every layer you owned, fingers numb even as you tied knots, faces half hidden behind wool and felt and fur. You remember a summer stretch across flatter, lower land, when the heat was so heavy that even at night it lingered. Then people slept outside their rooms, in the courtyard, wrapped in light cloth, faces turned up to the faint breath of night wind. Food then was simpler, cooked once in the cool of early morning or late evening, then eaten cold during the day. Thin, watery yogurt mixed with a little salt and mint, slices of melon or cucumber when they could be found. Bread dipped in oil, no fire lit at midday. Today is somewhere between these extremes, not punishing, not soft, just a typical day along the Silk Road, the kind of day most travelers have more often than any other, and that is what makes it perfect for sleep. No crisis, no cliffhanger, no moment where anything must be decided, just the long, slow unfolding of hours. Eventually, as the afternoon grows older, you see something ahead on the horizon that is not sky, not land, not mirage. At first, it is just a darker smudge. Then, it becomes a line. Then walls. Then a gate. Another caravanserai. It stands somewhat apart from any town, as if it is its own small world. Its walls are built of mud brick and baked brick and stone, whatever was cheapest and closest at hand. Time has rounded the edges, but repair has kept it strong. As you approach, you smell faint traces of inland life. Smoke from cooking fires inside, the sour comfort of animals that have been kept close, the faint sweetness of figs or dates or raisins being eaten by those who arrived before you. A shape moves along the top of the wall, someone walking, maybe a guard, maybe a teenager sent to watch for approaching guests. They call out, and a moment later, the heavy gate begins to open. You pass through, one more drop of the caravan's river. Inside, the courtyard feels both familiar and slightly new. Each caravanserai has its own arrangement of stables, rooms, kitchens, storage spaces, but the bones are the same. You lead your camel toward the section assigned for your group. You untie what must be untied. You loosen what should not dig into flesh overnight. You carry your personal goods into the room that will be yours until morning. 4 walls, a door, a pallet, maybe a niche in the wall where a lamp can sit. You set your pack down and feel your shoulders sigh with relief. Later, after a brief rinse at the well, a splash of water over hands and face, maybe a little over feet, you make your way toward the smell of cooking. Dinner here is being made in a large cauldron set over coals. Tonight's meal is a grain porridge thickened with lentils, chopped onions, and small scraps of meat. A cook with strong arms stirs it with a long wooden paddle, scraping the bottom to keep it from sticking. A little oil, precious and carefully counted, is poured in at the end, along with ground spices from a small cloth-wrapped bundle. Cumin, coriander, perhaps a pinch of black pepper expensive enough that most people have never tasted it alone, only as part of a group. Bowls are filled and passed around. You sit, among others, bowl cupped in both palms, steam rising into your face. You scoop porridge with your bread, feeling the warmth against your fingertips, licking it off before it can burn. You chew slowly. The grain is soft, but not mushy. The lentils are tender. Occasional bits of meat remind you that animals, too, walk this road for reasons beyond carrying loads. Nearby, a small group speaks in a Central Asian dialect you only half understand, talking about the wages offered in a city farther west for scribes who can keep the records of warehouses and caravanserais. They discuss numbers that are very different from the 3 or 4 copper coins a day earned by porters, shares of profits, payments in silver, even rarely gold pieces that pass from hand to hand and then vanish into someone's private treasure. Farther along the circle, a gray-bearded man from an oasis town gestures as he talks about the weather in his home region, the way the wind rises like a regular visitor each afternoon in the hot months, the way sand piles up against the walls of houses, the way the first spring rain smells when it hits the dust that has been waiting all winter. His words call up images. Skies darkening not with clouds but with dust, the fine grit that collects in every fold of cloth, the taste of that dust at the back of the throat, the relief when, once or twice a year, real clouds rise and water falls, flattening the dust and leaving behind a smell like wet clay and new hope. You listen with half your attention because the other half is finally fully tired. Your eyes feel heavy. Your limbs are beginning to float. The bowl in your hands grows lighter as you work steadily to the bottom until only a few streaks of grain and spice cling to the sides. When you are done, you set it aside and sit for a few more breaths, just absorbing the warmth and the sound of others' voices. Someone brings out a small gourd instrument and plucks a simple, repetitive melody. The notes are low, soothing, like a lullaby, not aimed at any particular child, but at everyone. You stand and walk back to your room, each step a little slower now. Inside, the air is cooler. You light a small lamp with a taper taken from the kitchen fire, just enough flame to see by. You unroll your blanket on the pallet and sit down to remove your boots. When you pull them off, you flex your toes, spreading them wide, feeling the difference between the pressure of leather and the openness of air. You rub your feet briefly with your hands, working a bit of stiffness out of the arches, reassuring your body that it can rest now. You loosen your belt. You slide out of your thick cloak and fold it at the foot of your pallet, ready to pull over yourself if the night turns colder than expected. You lie down. The straw in the mattress rustles and then settles around you, accepting your weight. The blanket falls over you, its familiar scratchiness oddly comforting. You blow out the lamp. Darkness pours gently into the room. You are not afraid of it. You know that beyond this door, other people lie in their own darkness, breathing. You know that beyond these walls, animals shift and sigh, their bodies radiating warmth into the surrounding night. You know that above the ceiling, above the roof, above everything, the sky is once again full of stars. Some of those stars look down on this inn. Some look down on mountains you will not cross this year. Some look down on cities that glow faintly with their own lamps and fires. Some look down on oceans that most Silk Road travelers will never see. You will not see them either, not tonight. Your eyes are closed. Your breathing slows. You think distantly of all the small details that make up life on this road, the rough wool of cloaks, the smooth coolness of a silver coin passing from hand to hand, the smell of boiling lentils and onions, the sound of different prayers said to different names for the same unknown, the creak of leather straps when a camel rises, the feel of wind laced with desert dust on your face, the sight of mountains with their shoulders draped in snow, uncaring about all of this below. Each detail is a thread. Together, they weave the cloth of this journey. But you don't have to hold on to the threads now. You can let them slip. The foods, the wages, the weather, the languages, the cloth, the animals, the stone and dust and smoke, all of it will still be there tomorrow when you wake, when you rise, when you walk again. For now, the road can go on without you. It knows how. Sleep well, traveler. In and out, in and out. Let the world of the Silk Road dim and soften at the edges until it is only warmth and weight and slow, steady breathing in the dark.